Yeah, Thomas Harding, who I love, is great. But here we go.
Obviously, this game is crazy. You guys 35 times strike out over 2 games. It's a club record. But who cares if you win a game, right?
Yeah, dude. I mean, you're talking about all these records. We won 10-1. That's all I'm worried about.
That is an
funny,
unusual stat. Wow.
It's
crazy.
crazy.
How did they score 10 runs?
They kept hitting. I mean, every time, if it was an out, it was a strikeout. And if it wasn't, they got loads of hits. They were hitting the ball left and right. Fulford, their catcher, was unbelievable. He was like 5 for 5 on base. They got a little bit lucky. They got a little bit luck. That's baseball that went their way. Braves made a couple of errors. It's like that. And the runs just keep piling up. It was a great game for them, actually. It was pretty close. Austin Gomber came back. He's been out for a while. Did you even know he was still on the team?
No. Should Warren Schaeffer have turned down this job?
No, God, no.
Do you have a better opportunity at a future job and turn this down?
No.
Well,
you never turn down a head coaching job.
No, he wouldn't have got the opportunity anyways without this job.
You know what that happened with the Broncos? Who was it? It was just a couple years ago with Hackett, when Hackett got fired. They asked someone, it was the defensive coordinator, Evero.
Evero.
They asked him to be the head coach.
For 2 games.
And he turned it down.
Well, he turned it down because Hackett was his guy.
I know.
Yeah, and it was only
But he
2
shouldn't
games.
have turned it down. Put a stamp on it. Let people see your face.
Tyler's got a good point. That did happen.
Yeah.
It was only...
Yeah,
it was only 2 games. I mean, he was offered this job.
Have you heard from him since?
Actually, you know what? He probably should have taken it. Actually, you know what?
He went to
you're probably right.
He was a really hot name. And then he went to the Panthers, and I haven't heard anything about him since.
Yeah. He probably should have actually taken the job. He probably made a mistake.
Yeah.
A good example, though. He did turn down. You're right about
that. Because most
that.
defensive coordinators are upstairs. And unless you're on a big national platform television game, they never have a camera in front of the defensive coordinator.
And in all honesty, you got the job for 2 weeks. It's your job for 2 weeks. You could actually make your mark.
Mm-hmm.
What's his face did? The special teams guy was
Well, Coach took over, and then he did fire some folks. I forget who got fired, but he fired one or two.
He fired Dwayne Stukes, the special teams coach, who said that I'd rather talk to Jody Camillus than talk to him. I mean, that was his. What was his name?
Coach.
I know. What was General? We called him the hell was his name?
I can picture him. I can't remember his name. Jerry Rosberg.
Was it Rosberg?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Jerry Rosberg, right?
Yeah. Rosberg. Yeah. So his history was in special teams. And Dwayne Stukes, who used to work with Jody Camillus, who we all, we know. And I think he was with the Rams at the time. He actually admitted I'd rather, call him up than go talk to Rosberg, who was a special teams guy. That was so dysfunctional. You want to talk about moments of dysfunction for the Denver Broncos? Yeah, how about them hiring Rosberg to help?
You realize we sort of had the exact same setup with special teams this year.
How so?
Why am I drawing a blank on our 2 special teams coaches that we brought in the old timer?
Yeah.
That was Sean's guy forever from
Ben
the Saints.
Kavika was the younger guy, and Mike
Westhoff.
Yep, Mike Westhoff.
Mike Westhoff was brought in to be the czar of special teams, but he wasn't the special teams coach.
Correct.
That's always a dysfunctional setup.
Right, and then the Kansas City game broke him.
Then Alex Forsythe got trucked.
Yep.
And Westhoff retired.
Yep. Yep. That's right. And Kavika's gone too, right? We got a new special teams guy this year, right?
We brought in the other Saints coach that we were.
Right. Who's our special teams guy? I don't even remember.
The special teams guy.
Special teams.
He's probably a helicopter pilot. They're all helicopter pilots.
Well, going back to Coach, he actually came in and was actually pretty good. There was some.
No, he wasn't.
Oh, compared to what you had,
he was ridiculous.
Well, he wasn't as bad as Hackett.
Okay, I'll give you that. But his arrogance level was.
But you get to do that when you're in the office for 4 weeks and no one can say anything to you. Why not?
It was 10 days. It was a magical 10 days. There were some people in the Denver media that thought he had earned that job in those 10 days.
I remember that.
Going 1-1.
Well, 50% was better than the record before.
He did the most unbelievable thing I'd ever seen any coach ever do. When he got up for his first press conference, he spoke, this is no joke, without a question, for 12 straight minutes. It was like in the first 90.
That was about 50 years of work that he was waiting to get that opportunity for.
Dude, he was getting it all off his chest. Think about that for a second. In the first 90 seconds, I was like, this guy is, oh man, it hits 3 minutes, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. By the 5-minute mark, I was like in a cult. Like I was,
See? I thought he was great.
I mean, he spoke without a question. As the interim coach
So
for
do you
10
remember
days,
what the first
for
question
12
was?
straight. No, who would remember it? His statement was 12 minutes long. What exact question would you ask after a 12-minute statement? That guy was ridiculous. He did like tight ends, though. Who is the tight end that we weren't using, that we had benched?
Oh, the kid from Missouri.
Was it
Okwebunam?
Was it Okwebunam?
I think it was Okwebunam.
Remember they had just shelved the tight. Well, I think it was
Yeah.
Alberto.
Yeah.
And he why isn't he playing?
Let's try him.
And he actually didn't he have one game with like 4 or 5 catches and a touchdown or something?
I don't remember, man. It was something. They won one of the games. They won one, they lost one. And there were some members of the media that were like, Rosberg.
Yeah, he turned this whole thing around.
Man, he's the guy. Can you imagine if we had hired Rosberg instead of gotten Sean Payton? Come on.
They were never going to hire Rosberg.
I would have rather hired Rosberg than Hackett, though.
Yeah, as it turns out.
But then again, we still wouldn't have Sean Payton because Rosberg would have turned around. We'd have won a Super Bowl by now.
We all liked Hackett when he first got into town.
We did. We all like.
He won us over with his Will Ferrell skits,
Yep.
and he was Mr. Fun Guy. He was the opposite of what we had with Vic Fangio.
Correct.
Vic was Mr. Grumpy. Hackett was Mr. Fun.
You are correct. When did you first?
And then, when you first, I'm interrupt your question.
I'll tell you what
first you knew.
Yeah.
Training camp.
I'll tell you exactly the first time that I got nervous.
Okay.
It's Russell freaking Wilson, y'all. It's Russell freaking Wilson.
Too deferential.
Like, dude, all right. I mean, but when he started just going off
Too
like
fanboy.
that, it was like, nah, man, you're not his buddy.
I still was like into him at that point. I don't know exactly when he lost me, I mean.
Well, if you went to training camp, I thought training camps were stupid.
Well, it was Country Club Central.
Yes.
I remember that much.
Well, I'll tell you this, talking to like Tyler, ex-pros, you guys hated training camp. You thought it was, you did. Nobody was more, usually some of the muggles, whatever, cynical, whatever, that is the one thing I remember. I don't remember training camp where ex-players were more adamantly against what was going on than that.
I'll tell you this, Sean Payton has not been nearly as hard-nosed as what you thought he was going to be. In training camp and OTAs and any of it.
Yeah.
He is not Mr. Bill Parcells that you thought you were getting.
Yeah. But I mean, every third day we're not doing anything in training camp. That was Hackett every third day.
And there was, if you remember, there was no one-on-ones and there was no 7-on-7s.
Right.
Like football basics 101 from the beginning of time.
Right.
We're not doing one-on-ones? We're not doing 7-on-7?
I thought to start that season they felt unprepared.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
But
that goes back to training camp.
It was weird too because ownership had not quite taken over. I mean, they were coming in, but they weren't quite there. And then the Russell Wilson deal got done during camp, and we're like, "What's the rush?" But I was amongst a lot of people.
No, that's not true.
A lot of people. I'm
true.
one of them. I'm one of them.
Nobody said, "What's the rush?" Nobody.
A couple people said.
Who?
Oh, I know a couple people.
Fred.
The far majority of folks were saying you
I
traded
agree.
for Russell Wilson.
I agree.
Now you got to give him a deal.
I was one of them.
Me too.
And hindsight's 2020. I agree on all of that.
I wasn't necessarily excited. I wasn't all in on the trade.
The second you made the trade, though, you didn't have a choice.
But once you made the trade, you didn't have a choice.
Right. Like, what are we doing here? And then it was what it was. And then there was the game. And then it's Brandon McManus trying to bomb 64-yarders. And it just kind of went from there, man. You know what? I don't know if I was even out on Hackett then, though.
Oh, I was.
I can't even remember like when he had just lost me.
Well, listen, I was working with two other guys here, and they were all jumping up, going on parade. They went on parade as soon as the trade.
With
And
Wilson?
Yeah, and I went, ooh.
You were hesitant about it?
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
I will never forget the day that we traded for Russell Wilson was one of the most exciting days I've ever had on air doing radio.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. We did it again. Are you kidding me? We got Peyton Manning again.
Right.
I was excited on the Peyton Manning, and that had more question marks coming into that year than Russell Wilson
Oh,
did.
who
'Cause,
was-
I mean,
who was
Peyton Manning had the shoulder. And
Who was anti-Peyton Manning?
Well, but he still had the shoulder thing.
Well, to be honest, Peyton seemed at the time, and I wasn't doing radio. I was obviously playing football, but looking back on it, it would seem to me Peyton had far more questions than Russell Wilson.
Absolutely.
He did, but the quarterback at the time was Tim Tebow. So
Well,
it was
when
all
Russell Wilson came in, who was the quarterback?
Oh, exactly. No, we were all excited for Russell Wilson. Tyler's not wrong. We thought it was Peyton Manning 2.0. Like, how lucky did we get? You got to be kidding me. What we didn't know enough was what Seattle knew for sure. And we thought Seattle was making a big mistake. And then we started hearing from our radio friends in Seattle. And they were like, wait and see.
Good luck, buddy.
Yeah,
Yep,
good
they were
luck.
all like that. They were all like, you'll see.